So here it's going. The day. The whales are out. And people are gathering and people are writing about the whales being out. So there are some folks still very socially distanceable, but coming to the beach at the end of Manor. And I went and stood on the sand today. I want to get down to the water, in the water. And for this journey I'm taking with Margaret, the symbolic process journey, I want to get some water, salt water, from the Pacific Ocean. And then next week when I'm in New York, I'll see if I can get some water from the Atlantic, just to work with while I am working with salt water. And I'm doing laundry. I met my ex-husband for a gift I'm going to take to my daughter, our daughter. And it was one of those lovely adult, beautiful, socially distanced. I've been dreaming about the day when we could just be people with each other again, who love our kids. And we've arrived. We've figured that out somehow. And they say somewhere along the way I read that, it takes half the life of the relationship to begin to feel done with the heartbreak or the separation or the weirdness or whatever. So we were every day for 20 years together. Every day I woke up, I told myself I was in love. And 20 years was a good long run at that. And maybe if I didn't feel called to come all the way out in this lifetime, we could have made it past whatever that desire is to have the kind of sex you think you want. I don't know. At 54, I get to take Toni Morrison to bed and read until I fall asleep. And lesbians end up in a deathbed anyway, they say. Both of us reading till we fall asleep, forgetting all the anguish and longing and joy of one another's bodies. I don't know if this is true for everyone. Today in the studio, after work, I found some pictures of like the original lesbian couples that changed my life, demonstrated what was possible and made me fall in love with Woman Vision and the Great Dyke Mountain and the artists and poets and writers and psychologists and couples who built their own houses together on woman's land in Arkansas. And the lasting reach of that kind of love that made me look for it, want it. Separatism falls away in any kind of good world, I think. Any of the ways that you try and sequester a certain type of or kind of human being, I understand it. I understand the need to live alone long enough to love yourself utterly, in every way, in every sweet possible way, to let the perfectionist voices fall away and the other person's desires to stop being a consideration in some way, so that one can just figure out who one is and what one wants, likes, doesn't. That's what this journey has been about. That's what leaving my husband was about for me. had to love myself, find my way, know I could support myself in the world, especially after my father died. And I'm not of the era where a woman can only do what her husband says, but my mother grew up in and through and out of that, and made her money as a nurse and went to work every day and went to church every Sunday, and I followed her model in the way I parented, at least in the over-involved way I did while the kids were in lower school, their preschool and their private school life. And when they got to middle school, I was summarily dismissed, and I had to go find my own life. And I found it in grad school, and I found it in the studio, and I found it chasing the mysteries of the pomegranate, and I found it in the mystery school of the Black Hut, and I found it in the ways I was invited into work life as a means of supporting myself. And when those regular gigs would fall away, there were the consultant gigs, and then the working with death, and people ready to cross over, and people ready to think about what happens to their body when they drop it, and people ready to take responsible action around all of that. And then the detour of 6 years, or maybe not the detour, maybe just the first lesbian relationship of my life, when I wasn't really even out at work there, when that started. And the boss I had, the friend I made, who came to my gallery, our gallery when we had one, she came there and spoke her poetry, and I spoke mine, and Jason spoke his, and we did the round robin of hearing each other's poetry out in our own voice, speaking our own words, and then to speak the other's words in such a way that we could really hear the magic and the way we sewed that stuff together. Anyway, I met her there, and I tried to get her to want to be on nonprofit boards, and she kept saying, "Don't you want a job?" And then one day, a post, I was willing to move back to Walnut Creek to be closer to my kids and do this suburban thing again, and she said, why don't we meet for coffee? And that turned into 9 years of corporate life. Nine years since graduating with my master's degree. I saw the imagery today. Facebook serves up the memories, and my kids with me in that carless time of utterly broke, but not broken. Learning how to let go of a world so that I could step out on faith and make another. And this is that. The grand culmination of knowing something about transformative art. So much more now, today, 9 years later, having relied on it every single day of my life to stay alive, since I decided I had to stay alive. which was ever since I realized I didn't want my kids to go to college and say my mom committed suicide when I was, however old they were, when I was doing all that bridge walking. Black men are not hanging themselves from trees, you know. That's lynching, modern day, 21st century lynching. I don't know how to hold that. Glide goes every year to the lynching museum. I send money to the Equal Justice Initiative. I pray for just mercy. My friend Deborah turned me on to Brian Stevenson. I read that book and saw the movie this year after Stacy decided I would be his march buddy in the Martin Luther King celebration in the streets in January of this year. And to close out that day, I went to the Metreon and sat in the seats where I had taken the kids to every Disney premiere, every animated everything. And I watched and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. There are so many innocent people on death row. There are so many people we never hear about. Not their individual cases that don't touch our individual lives. So many people wrongly accused. The justice system is unjust by its very nature, created post-slavery to enslave Africans, to enslave free slaves. Free slaves. I'm pontificating from my porch. On the drive back home from where my ex-husband lives, we met at the loading zone outside of his building. And he brought me the freezer bag full of gift for a daughter. And we stood in our socially distanced way and talked. He stood, I sat in the Mustang with the top down. And when it was time to come back, I cruised back that snake along the Embarcadero, then along 3rd Street, and past the studio. In all those well-worn ways of having made my way with that as an anchor in my life. And while I was down by the new Warriors Palace, I don't know what it's called. What is the new stadium? There was a Black Lives Matter parade, and people were honking and honking and holding their fists in the air and honking and I just got a hit, just a little hit. Like, my empath stuff is up, and I haven't put myself in that energy. And I've been 95 days in my own house with 4 excursions out to meet friends and 7 trips to the grocery store. In 95 days, 4 visitors, 1 failed relationship, but just 1 so far. In 95 days. I didn't burn everybody up this time, and I repaired some sweet, kind, beautiful friendships. But I hit that parade and I put my fist in the air and I cried. I cried. White woman tears. Salt water my body makes. I have enough to paint with now. So perhaps I'll go do that. Thanks for joining me for sunset and twilight. Blessings on your empathy. May you feel your way in to another's experience as they articulate what that experience is. You stay you, and you feel them. Feel what they go through. Feel into the truth of who the Black lives are that matter to you. And then do everything you can to shut down whiteness in such a way that there are no more Black men hanging in trees from suicide or any other cause. Please shut down domestic terrorism. Please shut down the Ku Klux Klan. Please shut down this old, inherited hate that doesn't have anything to do with now. Sit still, let people speak it. Let the tears fall until the rage flames up. Take that rage and work together to change the world. I know we can. It is always and only a matter of learning how to love. Blessings on your courage and your commitment to eradicate your own hate. Good night.